everybody. And Steven's stomach.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
What
sorry.
were you doing?
I was trying to find the Twitch channel so I could watch chat.
Oh, yeah. You got to have chat up. I have all the chats. Internal,
Yes.
Discord, all the social,
Yes.
Twitch.
And by the way,
I try my best.
Before we even begin, I just want to touch on the fact that I am coming to you from home. I unfortunately got under the weather
He's
the
a
other
little
day.
sick.
Yes, and last night.
You look so cozy, though.
Well, let me say I don't feel cozy.
But you look cozy. Very, very comfortable. Well, welcome, everybody. Salutations and welcome to our Glorious Ashes of Creation March Development Update. We hope that you are well and safe. Hopefully you are not sick like Steven is. But we are still here. We're still going to give you guys a great monthly update. For those of you who, maybe don't follow us very closely, you might not see all the little things that we're doing all the time. But this is your little update for what we've been working on. So just to remind you of what we're covering today, we'll be going over some quick reminders. We have a little announcement. We'll be showing our Carfin preview, which you got a little teaser of last month.
Yes.
And then we also have some character art and some additional art update as well. And then a studio update and Q&A. So we hope that y'all are doing well. I'm excited. We just, wrapped up one of our milestones, milestone 4 for us internally. And for those of you who don't know, we kind of different sprints that we run. And this was a big one for us. So it's very exciting. And we're excited to start heading into our milestone 5.
I want to capture
the little phoenixes. He's got a phoenix on each side.
I know. I put a little phoenix up on each of the sides. Yeah, we had for these of you guys who don't know, so we follow an agile development process where we operate under sprints and milestones and whatnot. And the end of our milestone 4 was was last week. And we tend as a studio, obviously celebrate these milestones that we hit. And last night, Margaret organized a very awesome evening at this really cool bowling alley brewery slash like
Arcade.
games place,
Yeah.
arcade, and it was really cool. The team just had an opportunity to relax and get to get to enjoy each other's company in a non-professional setting. And
oh my
I thought
gosh,
that was cool.
It was so cute. People hugging each other and just like having a good time and chatting about work and like not work, like, having fun chatting about work, not like.
So I also
work.
just want to, before we get into things, I want to say, like, last night I hadn't bowled in years, probably. And I guess age is really catching up with me. And so I had this bowling ball and I was taking the first bowling swing of the night for myself. And I go up there and I have the bowling ball in the hands and I'm about to throw it down the thing. And my 2 fingers came out of the bowling ball just fine. But my thumb got stuck as I was about to throw the ball. And I knew immediately what was going to happen. And this was definitely, my face started to go from excited and happy to sheer terror. And the ball just keeps going up into the air, stuck to my hand. And then finally, at the last possible second, when it's like at the highest point of the arc, the ball flies off my hand straight up into the air onto the other bowling lane and lands with this massive thud that the entire like bowling alley just was silent and all looking over at me like, what is happening? I was so embarrassed. That was so bad.
I won't name names, but one of our other developers, I don't know if he'll want me to share his name. He can DM me if he's okay with it. They decided that their last round, they were going to get the biggest, heaviest ball and throw it down the lane.
Oh, no.
And similarly to you, also had a problem, but instead threw the ball backwards at the people instead of down the lane.
let's just say we need to stick to making games and not bowling. But regardless, we had a really fun night. It was awesome. It's always great to be able to spend time with each other and celebrate our successes. And I feel like that's what makes Ashes and Intrepid a really great place to work. Is that we're all passionate. We love MMOs. We love what we're doing. We love what we're building. But also we love doing it together. And that's a super super cool experience to have. I think from a workplace environment standpoint, not a lot of companies foster that type of atmosphere, and I think we've done a really good job at that. So
Yeah,
so
and
it
maybe
was
in the
very fun.
studio update segment, we'll talk a little bit about what was done in Milestone for and what we're moving towards. But let's start with some of our things that we just need to get out of the way right now, which is first and foremost, we do have our YouTube subscriber comment. If you don't know, if you subscribe to us over on YouTube and you comment as a subscriber on our development update video, you could be chosen to be spotlighted. And today's spotlight, I will switch over to that scene, is from Papa Smurf 6834. And their question is, are we months away from the Alpha 2 or years, plural? Any kind of indication of the timetable would be greatly appreciated. And I think from my team, they would also love for us to set that expectation because they deal with this question all the
Yes,
time. And so I'm
yes.
kind of throwing it to you, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a common question. Desiring minds wish to know. We are not years away from Alpha 2. But also Alpha 2 is not right around the corner. As a public project, as a project that is visible from the outside during its development, it's important that we execute well during these testing phases. And early on in the project, I made some missteps in when we were anticipating coming to certain testing periods. Obviously, I have learned a considerable amount over what it takes to build these games over the last 6 years. And we made a promise to the community that we would not give dates again in the future unless we were very certain that we were going to hit those dates, or at least be very close to hitting them. And so, as a result of that, we have our internal schedule. We have our internal milestones. We have our production roadmap that we operate from, and the teams operate very well from these expectations internally as well. But to answer that question, no, we're not years away from Alpha 2. Internally, we are going to be doing some testing probably late this year and early next year as it relates to Alpha 2. And Alpha 2 is going to be, kind of a slow roll out of testing. So our desire is to get in as quickly as possible, test some of the core systems and loops that we've integrated, since our Alpha 1, and get those vetted by player feedback and experience that we can iterate upon, essentially, and get an opportunity. And that's going to be all public, right? You guys know that Alpha 2 is a non-NDA'd environment testing. But prior to Alpha 2, we will test some more spot-oriented testing with some of the Alpha 1 testers and or PI, leading up to what would eventually become the Alpha 2 launch. Um,
And we'll probably start with PI so that we have a smaller group, and then we'll add on to it with our spot testing with Alpha 1 users. And then as we're ready, we'll bring in Alpha 2 users, and then, then we'll go more public with the big
yeah,
stuff.
and I think so all of us have experienced launches of games or testing platforms that we felt needed more time from a consumer, from a player's perspective. Um, and our approach, our philosophy is that essentially the game will be ready when it's ready. We're not striving for perfection. We're striving to achieve what the core loop is anticipated to be, what we've promised, what we're building right now. Um, that is the goal, and we understand just how important it is to succeed during these testing periods, and obviously for launch, because MMOs traditionally really only get one stab at that launch. And they can, work to improve the game after launch if there's hiccups and whatnot that we've experienced, obviously. But really, we want to execute well on that initial launch. And what that means for us is we have to spend that time to ensure that what we are building is sustainable, is extensible, is performant, and represents what the core philosophy of gameplay loops are intending to be. And we're building a massive project. I mean, this is probably the most ambitious fantasy MMORPG to date at a launch frame, right? Obviously, other products, other franchises have had a decade plus to introduce and trickle out content. And one of the difficulties of launching an MMO, a new MMO, is that you have to compete or try to compete and contend with all of that content that's available because it creates a really strong social elasticity for the players of those MMOs, and we want to be ensuring that our core gameplay loops are enjoyable, are fulfilling, and have content that keeps players invested for a long time to come. And because that's our goal, and we have a lot of those systems to build, the team is hard at work creating them in preparation for Alpha 2, which is probably going to be it is going to be one of our biggest test environments up until launch is Alpha 2. I mean, that is a
Yeah.
major slice of the game. So,
I mean, like Steven said, we only get, one chance for first impressions. So it's very important for us. If Alpha 1 hadn't had gone as well as it did, people might not be as excited for Alpha 2. So thinking about the future of that and the longevity of our project and making sure that people are, going to love what we're creating as much as possible. And as we've said many times, we're constantly going to take feedback. And there are, decisions that we've made as, on the design front that we want to come to fruition. And we know that sometimes it's not what you guys are always interested in, but we were like, give us a chance, play it, give us feedback, and we will, alter things as we go forward. But I think we're really excited, just as excited for you guys to join us and see what we're creating. I mean, from a developer's perspective, there's nothing greater than seeing someone enjoy the product that you've created. And, obviously we all want to enjoy it too. I think that we've had a lot of fun internally, which we might be sharing some of that internal fun with you guys next month. But I like, we've definitely, trying to make sure that we're creating something. And I think one of the things that people might not realize is that MMOs take a really long time to make. That's why we're like, this is a journey that you're going on with us. You're getting to see what development is like. And I think that
from the get-go.
Yeah, from the get-go.
Yeah.
And what's going to be fun is you're going to get to see that journey. And then when we look back on this at launch, we're going to be like, wow, it's crazy seeing how, even now, looking at what was the beginning of Ashes of Creation and what it is now, is crazy.
The cool thing is that journey is likely going to be expressed as even part of a documentary when we're done with this thing, right? We record all of our meetings, all of our sessions, everything is kept on a record. So when we're done launching this product, we have an opportunity to really give an under the hood look at the Herculean effort it's taken to get to where we are today and where we will eventually be soon enough. So
I want to bring up on that front is, the feedback that you guys give us. Roshan and Vacnar are amazing. They put together these phenomenal reports. We record those meetings that we have with the designers and developers when we go over that feedback. And it's really, I can't wait for you guys to see like that side of it where you get to see like, hey, we really were taking in your feedback. And most of the time in those meetings, it's like, yeah, we're already planning on doing that and that and that. And some of the extra ideas were like,
it's validation.
That's cool. Yeah, it's validating like what we're saying. And the issues that and concerns that you guys have are also the issues and concerns we have. So it's making sure that we're all on the same page. But I think it'll be cool for you to experience that and see the other side of it. But obviously we have to, be careful what we share prior to launch, just because, like we said, we only have one chance to impress people.
To make an impression. Absolutely. And just a last point on that topic, and then I think we can move on.
Yeah, we got to move on. we got a whole show for you guys.
Exactly. Is that this journey is not for everyone. The patience it requires, the understanding, the vision in in looking and seeing where something is at now and where it will be in the future, that is a very specific type of individual, and requires unique patience, I think. You know, our development, like every development, is never going to be perfect. And we're going to have, areas that slip, and areas where we can improve. And hopefully, those of you who have watched for a very long time now, our development progress, you will have seen those improvements from, day one to today and to tomorrow. And it's okay if following development is not for you.
Yeah.
At some point,
Turn it off. Go
yeah, at
play
some
other go play other games and
exactly.
come back when you're ready to play.
And at some point, there is going to be an opportunity now to just download the game and play,
Yeah.
and that is going to be the experience in and of itself. So,
100%.
yes.
And with that, we're going to do a little announcement. Next month, you're going to get 2 live streams. So on April 7th at 11 a.m. Pacific, our normal time, but just a little earlier. So literally next Friday, we will be doing a creative director community Q&A that will be with a few content creators. Chibi Bree from the Golden Feather will be joining us. Richie SH, if you've watched any of their YouTube videos. And of course, Samurg from Ashes Pathfinders. And we're really excited. They've accumulated some amazing questions from their communities and from the community as a whole. We really wanted to kind of give some love to the people who have been really supporting us and being part of the community for so long. And we hope that you guys enjoy it. They got some good questions. Stephen hasn't read them yet.
No,
maybe we'll add some spicy ones in there.
I don't typically read questions prior.
He doesn't like to. And my team's like, why won't he read them? I was like, he doesn't want to.
I don't want to overthink the response. So I typically just, I want to answer off the cuff as much as I can. Yeah. But I'm excited about that. That's going to be a fun, I think, conversation to have.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll do more of those in the future with other content creators. Don't worry. Hold on. Hold your pants. Some people are spamming their favorite creators. But obviously, like, as we get closer to Alpha 2, there will be more opportunities for hyping things up and getting more excited. This is just more so to answer some questions from the community and make sure that we give some love to some folks. And then with that, we also have just a reminder that the cosmetics will be swapping over for Flavors of Fellerin, and that will be April 12th, 2023 at 11 a.m. Pacific. Reminder of that. And of course, for those of you who are content creators, we do have a content creator program that you can check out. You can go to our FAQ database and type in content creator and it'll show for you. But we are currently just taking applications for that. I know a lot of content creators have been asking when we're going to do invites. Those invites will probably be closer to when we're getting to Alpha 2. So as we start ramping that up, you'll probably be like, what's happening? But we will start sending invites closer to that time frame. Right now, we're focused on just application phase, which is a lot of folks. And we're very excited that so many people are interested in joining us on this crazy adventure. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Stephen to give us a little preface before we show you a little walkthrough of Carfin.
So, some of you might have seen maybe some leaks that I did in Margaret's absence while she was at PAX.
Oh, I saw.
I know. I'm sorry. But this month we wanted to showcase the Tower of Carfin from a lore perspective. And then in addition, we wanted to showcase some new systems that have been brought online from a narrative perspective as well, as it relates to our story arcs. So this is a deep dive in both the lore of Carfin, as well as the system of our story arcs and how they change the world around you to reflect different chapters and or paths that story arcs can take based off of player activity. You'll see the world change a little bit. I want to preface that, of course, this is all a work in progress. You are taking a look at something that is still very much in the alpha in the alpha phase, both visually and in particular, you'll notice before the transition of the zone, which happens about 6 minutes into this video, you'll see it in the non-active state. And there's some lighting there that we're still fixing, and some of the materials and whatnot. But you're going to see it in the corrupt state after about the 6 minute mark, and it's pretty gnarly.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is absolutely.
It's neat. It's different, and more dynamic, and I think that people are gonna like it. So
Yes.
let's
So
get to it.
you guys will enjoy. We'll see you
We'll
in a
see you
little
on the
bit.
flip side.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another stream from Vera. We have been building up, I think, to this moment a little bit in the showcase for the tower at Carfin. And I think there's been some lore that we've released during last November's Extra Life live stream. We played through a portion, I believe, of this tower. And now we have an opportunity to take a look together, a little sneak peek, a small portion of this area and the lore behind it. And we're also going to take a focus with some of the developers that'll be joining us here in a second. I'll introduce them into the system of our story arcs and how that system works in reflecting the changes that players elicit from the world of Vera. So I want to introduce one of our senior designers, Scott. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing very good. Thank you for asking.
Welcome. Welcome to your design become reality.
Thank you.
Scott has been working on the narrative for this particular story arc that we're all going to see in a second, with his team, with whom we are joined by one of our designers, Aimee. Aimee, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good, Stephen.
Welcome. Is this your first time on the stream?
It is, yeah.
That is awesome. Aimee is one of our incredibly talented designers who is helping create the narrative around Vera. And you guys may have played some of her quests in Alpha 1, actually. One in particular is I believe it was the Lost Pages and the that spider quest. Was that right, Aimee? Were those yours?
Those were my quests, yeah. Thanks for remembering them.
I know, they're great.
Yeah, I'm super excited to join today.
We're very excited to have you. And then in addition, we have what is soon becoming a regular on the streams, Mr. Jeremy, one of our senior designers. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Happy to show off Scott's masterpiece creation here.
Yeah.
Easy.
Story arc.
Oh my goodness.
Laying it on thick.
I know. Wow.
Love it.
Pretty exciting.
It is exciting. It is exciting.
I mean, I've always said that nodes is the new hotness that we've been showing, and story arcs are the new hotness we've been hiding.
Yes, agreed. Totally agree. So one of the first things that you guys are going to notice in this environment is that we have this perspective of the tower, and I think, Scott, do you want to talk a little bit about story arcs as a system?
Yeah, sure. So it's helpful, I think, to think about story arcs as kind of like a prepackaged tabletop campaign. They contain like all of the NPCs and quests and monsters, like all the things you need to make a cool fantasy story. They're not procedurally generated. We author them, we write all the dialogue, and we construct all the narrative beats and everything like that. But they will enter the world dynamically depending on the state that the world is currently in, how players have built up specific nodes, like what races control various nodes. We have plans to include lots of different things on top of that. But yeah, it's we don't have any quest hubs or anything like that in this game because players build up all the cities. So we had to get a system that kind of looks at what players are doing and can inject content into the world that makes sense for what they're doing.
So
I've always seen it as like the world decides in the state that it's in that we're gonna now play this module. We're gonna, because of the state of the nodes being in this way and certain races have this one, we're gonna play Curse of Strahd. We're gonna do Blood Still Do. We're gonna do those
yes.
modules and things.
So one of
Yeah.
the things that I find most unique about our story arc system is that they're intended to represent change within the story of what Vera is telling. And we don't just do that through these new quest logs and dialogue, but also by literally changing the environments and showing these active states that represent what is happening and what choices the players have made previously in the different chapters, perhaps, of other story arcs. Scott, I know that we have been working hard on this. Your team has been working particularly hard and with engineering to kind of stand this system up over the last several months. But you have the ability to push us into the next chapter manually, correct?
Yeah, normally this is a story that would require us to have built up some of the nodes in the area. Either you could just build up Miraleth directly to get access to where we're going, or any of the nodes in the Riverlands could have leveled up to a certain amount to have basically enabled the story to spawn. But I'll just turn this on for us now manually.
Let's see
If
it.
that's good.
Get ready, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
Welcome
I push it. Takes a second, but it will kick on.
to the Tower of Carfin. And Houston.
There it goes.
Uh-oh. Ooh. Oh, things are getting red. The complete What is that?
The blood.
Is coming on.
Oh,
This
the
thing over
blood
here?
still due?
There it is. It's paying right now.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, when Sturks come online, they change a lot in the environment. They update what monsters are in the world. They create quest NPCs. You can see Orin. He's not normally here. We've moved him for the sake of this. And then yeah, new pathways can open up through the environment.
Is the bridge moving?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's nasty. What are the vines?
It's it's corruption. There's a very terrible curse is sort of remaining here after a sort of desperate spell was cast during the Harbinger Apocalypse. You saw a bit of that spell being replayed at the top of the tower there. But when the Ancients were advancing toward the Aelan capital, where Carfin is sort of strategically positioned between where the Harbinger Comet landed and the Aelan capital, the mages here, and Carfin was known throughout the Aelan Empire for its magical prowess. The head
Wow.
mage here did a very desperate and dangerous spell to slow the Ancients' advance, and
And
what
that
you're
was to
seeing
buy
now
the
is the
time
result.
for the capital of Ayla, where they were building one of the divine gateways.
Yeah.
Exactly, yes.
Divine
So
portal to open and people to get out.
right, they needed more time. They needed to make space for them. They did something pretty terrible to do that. It bought them the time, but as you can see, this once great city has suffered a great cost.
Wow, this is cool. I like the little jump puzzle. This is awesome.
This
What
bridge
is
isn't
that?
here all the time. The story arc helped this bridge form. This bridge might also appear if you've leveled up Miraleth enough to create kind of this pathway. Otherwise, there's other ways to get there, but more dangerous ways.
Is that a what is that down there?
That's a fiend golem or a
Fiend golem,
flesh
yeah.
golem
Ooh.
fiend version. Yeah.
Oh, I like how the light just lit up to showcase the body. That's crazy. That's super cool. And so now the the spawn tables around the city of Carfin have changed as a result of the story arc progression.
Right. So normally, when the city is not in its cursed state, you've got a whole subset of like constructs and various other like arcane things, like you saw the animated armors and stuff like that. While the
Fences, yeah.
while the curse is in effect, we've got these watchwolves, these seekers here, who they have their own sort of story and reason for being here while the curse is active.
Ultra Seekers, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they've got their summoned watch wolves watching their backs as they're doing what they're doing.
Wow. The environment team did an unbelievable job here.
They did a killer job on this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
all of
this
them.
looks
The
so
whole
good.
team was full bore
I was
on
like-
it, so.
It's a blood curse, and they really took that personally.
They said, "Oh, you want to see what corruption looks like?"
I know.
Well, talk to us a little bit about blood magic versus just normal corruption.
So yeah, blood magic is a sort of illegal kind of magic, and using it in any amounts creates a certain amount of corruption in the caster, and that corruption can bleed over into the environments and things that they draw essence from in order to cast those spells. This was a blood magic that obviously consumed a whole heck of a lot of it.
She wasn't intending for this kind of after effect.
No. Yeah, the mage who cast this was not able to understand the scope of the destruction that would cause. But also in the final, the final days of, ancient Vera during the Harbinger Apocalypse, like
You didn't have a lot of time to research.
there was not a whole lot of deliberation. There wasn't a whole lot of like magical research and safety precautions that they could take. So yeah, it did its job, but
Yeah, it seemed to, like even if it delayed a lot of the progress they made towards the portal, it seemed like they really created a lot of destruction along the way.
Carfin itself has a lot of history built into the environment here too. You'll see lots of statues and stuff around that go into it.
One of the five main city-states, 5 primary city-states of the Aelan people. Then they would form into the Aelan Empire following the Great War of the Undying with King Atrax.
Right now, so many people are just like, oh my god, we're finally getting lore.
We could go all day on it if you want.
We could, yeah.
Well, we don't want to give it all away.
Well, the story is kind of told over the course of 4 phases, 4 chapters. Each chapter will update spawns, change the quest givers, change what quests are available, and that's across the server. It's not like your individual progress phases. That is, the actual quests themselves you can progress kind of at your own pace, but as long as it's within the window of that quest's phase being active.
I mean, who honestly has this much blood to spare? This is crazy. This is...
We're actually trying to figure out the science of, like, if you took an entire city's worth of people, how many cups of blood would you have?
Oh no.
Probably not very many.
Less than you think, but it wouldn't be as dramatic if we were super realistic with it.
Oh, it's magic.
Yeah, it's magic.
Blood is persistent and eternal.
Yeah.
Unless we can do something about this curse.
I don't know, Steven, if you stopped and talked to Orn and pick up that quest or not. But,
Oh no, I did not.
Oh, that's okay. I think you still have
How can I...
all the quests that were in there before.
Yeah, let me grab it. How do I open my journal again? What is that?
It's L.
L, that's right.
Yeah, L to open your journal.
Oh,
So if
yeah,
you look in
I
there,
got it. There we go.
yeah, you can see there's other story arcs going on as well. The phase timers in there indicate how much real world time is available to, like, do the quests in that phase.
I see.
And what quests you do or the quests that you do, like it's not just a matter of completing the laundry list of things that the NPC has you do, but you pick from a whole bunch of objectives, many of them optional, some of them, if not most of them, hidden when you first undertake the quest. So go dig up a guide or blaze your own trail or whatever. But depending on which objectives you complete, those are the things that help the server aggregate what is going to happen in later phases of the story arc, and that's like across all of the players participating during that time frame. What objectives they decide to complete that's what drives what happens in later.
Awesome.
What quests are available, what NPCs are pulling ahead of other NPCs in terms of their progress toward their goals.
And how you complete your quest matters.
Yes. Yeah, with some objectives, being exclusive of one another, so helping one NPC will lock you out of helping a different NPC. So yeah, it's we oh.
Oh no! Wow, I'm just taking in the sheer beauty, but also like a kind of gross beauty of this environment. It is so eerie.
I think even the corrupted trees, you can harvest them. You find some of them that you can harvest and chop them down.
Oh really?
Yeah, they're a little bit hard to spot though.
Well, also the I believe that as part of these environments changing, you're also activating rare resource spawners that might only occur during certain events.
Yeah, that's correct.
Definitely.
So yeah, like corrupted soul bloom, and there was one that Corey had just put in. All those things are only available during certain story arcs, and every story arc has its kind of special things that you want to try and take advantage of.
And that one,
if they're in your backyard, swing by and pick them up.
Yeah, for herbalism, for making certain potions. Sometimes you want to take advantage of the limited time you have during the story arcs to get some of these rare resources for crafting things. Certain poisons and potions from these limited corrupted spirit blooms, right?
Yep.
Sorry, I just disabled my my HUD right now. I want to, like, this area is just too crazy.
Huge tower.
It looks so good. Jeremy and Hal and Adam, I think, and who's all working on this? Jeremy.
Zach and Brandon and everybody. Scott.
Other Scott.
Yeah.
Not me.
Tristan's entire team.
Yeah, this is absolutely beautiful. And talk to me a little bit about the dungeon.
So the dungeon we're heading to right here, that's the Tower of Carfin. That is the Mage University that, following the War of the Undying, the elves said, oh, these humans, there's something to them. Let's gift them the gift of magic and let's show them the advanced stuff.
You can see some of that story reflected here on these murals.
Yeah. Build them a university.
Hold on, I grabbed some stuff.
And we can teach them the way we want to teach them. And the human said, yeah, show us. I think we ran by the deans, the first deans of the statues back here.
Oh yeah, we should go look at those.
I really love how some of the ornate detail in the buildings have so much symbolism attached to them. It really makes it feel like there's a kind of steep lore
like if we go
behind
back
all
this
the
way to the
environment.
Which way over here?
Go back this way to the statues we ran past.
Oh
yeah. All the former headmasters.
Oh yeah, these are the former
of
deans,
the university.
right?
Yeah.
So this one up front here, that's Tanfilaris Wren. He's the elf that came over from the elves and from the Pyrian elves at the time. And you can see he kind of built the tower for them. Started training the first students. And then one of the other towers is his best student, Aristod. We can point out his statue in a bit here. So he was the first human dean. And he's this one here. You can see him kind of with the book open. That was Aristod.
Wow.
So he's the first one after Tanfelaris went back to the elves after a few decades. We've got Dean over here is the woman that's Jenica. And the interesting thing about her is that she never died. She was into teleportation, and that was her big area of expertise, and she just never came back. Hint, hint, hook.
No. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Then we have one of Lamont's Orange over here. That's Darren Lamont. He was a dean of the college.
He looks like the wise guy.
Mm-hmm.
Orin's family is quite they're quite central to the story here. There'll be lots of opportunities to learn lots of them in this story arc, actually.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and the final one there's Klon Xander. He was all into alchemy, so that was his area of expertise that he really.
Oh yeah.
So if you see a lot of maybe some potions in the game with a Klon or Xander's so and so, that's the guy.
What do we have here?
Just a very normal looking door, probably nothing terrible
Oh
in there.
no, I mean this mural.
Oh, the humans asking the Pyre for help with magic.
The
Period.
periods. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Pyrian.
Very
got
cool.
him teaching.
The Pyrian teaching the
Tanfelaris.
Kalar, or the alien at that point.
Yeah, the aliens.
And over here. Oh,
The-
the 5 moons.
The tower's construction and the 5
The-
moons.
Phases of the moon. 3 moons.
The 3 phases. Or 5 phases.
Yeah.
Perfect. Very cool.
Got
And then we also
symbol-
have their the symbology for the
If you
Pyrians and
notice
the
on
aliens.
the doors, you have a lion head on one side representing humans and the griffin head on the other representing the elves.
Who are the guys pulling the doors open? Just a couple of guards.
Yeah.
What is this sandal? Oh. Oh my god. I'm sorry, that made me cough a storm. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. I love it. All right, so what is our objective here? What are we looking for inside right now? Now, this is just the entrance, the foyer of the tower of the university.
Yeah.
So
Which is
we're not
so
going to obviously
multi-level
take you
something.
through everything. A lot of it's still a work in progress. Always remember that. This is a work in progress right now. This is part of the Alpha 2 experience. You'll be able to explore, delve into this dungeon. So, what are we going to see in here?
Even more corruption and blood.
More blood, for sure.
Ooh, I like the bell.
The gong is cool. I guess it is a bell. Bowling.
Oh my god. Wow. This looks great. I love this interior. The lighting is so moody. Oh my god, this is like the supreme edgelord environment.
Take a look around at this. There's a treasure chest over there to get our loot
Kind
from.
of my style. So.
But after we look around before we get the treasure.
Even the gothic-esque lamp with the nasty, like, flesh environment. Oh god. Ah! We have some loot. Is this like a treasure chest?
That's a treasure chest.
Whoa!
Or not.
Oh, no, not like that. Nuke it from orbit! Nuke it from orbit! Oh, thank you, perfect.
Where'd it go?
Where did it go?
Behind us now.
Oh, come here. Oh my god, this thing is crazy. Look at it. These are just the entrance mobs?
It's just the entrance, yeah.
Oh no. Oh. No, this guy is nasty. Now these tend to do some nasty things when they die, right? I mean, this is basically like a, what is this, a hoarder?
It's a
AKA
hoarder.
mimic? No, I'm just kidding. This looks...
Baron Hoarder.
Get away from it! Get away! Run! Get back! Get back! Ah!
Get away!
No! You're pulling it into the party! Oh, that is nasty. This is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, they did an incredible job on this. It just looks so good.
Well, is there anything
It'd be
else
great to explore that dungeon.
that you guys want to touch on from the story arc perspective? Want to kind of come at it.
Oh, I guess there's one thing people might be curious about. I mentioned how you could do what you needed to do, as long as the phase, you can do any quests available in that phase while that phase is available. So what happens if you miss something? You go on vacation or whatever, and you can't log in during the week to participate in the quests that are going on in the phase of that story arc. For most story arcs, they do repeat after they complete. They'll go on a cooldown and they will repeat again. You'll have another opportunity to get involved with them the next time they come through. For our big major world-spanning story arcs that will sort of tell your server's your server's own story, those ones don't repeat. Those are sort of one and done, but you can replay them. There's a different system for replaying previous phases for the big main story arcs. However, decisions and objectives you make in those won't count toward your server's what's canonized for your server, which is our way of saying what decisions they make for the objectives and stuff that get completed.
And all this goes to really kind of creating that experience of player agency being being seen through world building and actually changing the locations, the environment, the story, and how it influences future arcs down that path for the world to kind of reflect it. It creates such a unique, I feel, environment between different servers and the histories that they create.
Exactly. I think Jeremy said it really well earlier when we were trying to help figure out the right words to describe these very complicated systems. When he said,
there's
"Go ahead, Jeremy."
There's a different, in MMO you have different philosophies on kind of storytelling. We're going to more old school, like the world has a story and you're playing within the world story, and in our case you're helping to guide that by the decisions that you make while doing your quests and the different players. If one goes if a bunch go one way and a few go the other way, that kind of canonizes down that way. More recent MMOs have just focused the story on the player and used instance and phasing to tell individual stories at different times and at different durations. We're more old school, saying the world is evolving. You participate in how the world story is going. More the how UO and EverQuest and
Absolutely.
Those games
Lineage.
did it.
Dayak.
Lineage. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everybody is playing it in the same world, and the state of
Correct.
that world is something that everybody's building together.
All great games.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I feel
Well,
like one of the,
go ahead, Amy. Sorry, go no.
One
go
of the I was going to say that one of the major goals I feel like we have is to allow player decisions to have consequences and to have meaningful results from the decisions that they make. And so it seems like people can really create their own stories.
Absolutely. Phenomenal work, guys. Well, I want to thank you three for joining me to help kind of give players a little peek under the hood for the Tower of Carfin as I train your party. I apologize. And I cannot tell you how beautiful and unbelievable this area is. I mean, the artists are phenomenal. So
They did a killer job on this.
So
fun to go into.
With that being said, we're going to go run back to the stream. Super exciting stuff, and we will be back with you in just a moment. Thank you, guys.
Woohoo! Love seeing the reactions in chat whenever stuff started changing on the screen. I was like, yes. We hope that you are as excited as we are for like the dynamic questing system and content and how it interacts with the nodes.
Yeah, and this particular dungeon is a big one. It is a massive one. It is the largest in the Riverlands. And it is a major quest hub for Alpha 2. So this is, you guys will probably be spending a lot of time in this dungeon. One of the key takeaways from the system side of this, with regards to story arcs. Story arcs were something very early on that we decided was necessary to facilitate how players interacted and changed the world, right? We have this context of a very world building kind of oriented game with the node system. And then we needed something complementary on the narrative side that can actually facilitate the feeling from a player's perspective of my actions have consequences, my actions direct the way that the server goes. And it had to be adaptive. And I noticed there were some questions, and I apologize again.
Yeah, I've got some questions as well, but
I apologize again for being sick for this stream. But we had some. I saw we had some questions about, like, can I redo different chapters of the story arcs? And yeah, as that chapter is present, these story arc chapters, they exist for potentially days at a time, so that people have an opportunity to kind of move from story arc to story arc, do things across the world. We don't want a narrative system that is like highly dependent on dailies or weeklies, where you kind of feel this this need to log in to stay competitive, and it becomes a chore and not really indicative of the type of gameplay I feel as MMO players we want to have. And so the story arc system is really meant to provide these many cycles of interactive and compelling stories that are occurring simultaneously around the world and direct the future story arcs that come next based off of what branch is taken as an outcome of the particular story arc. So, for example, in the Tower of Carfin, there are two ways that this particular story arc can end. It can end with a boss encounter at the top of the tower, or it can end with a boss encounter that's at the ground level in the supporting city around the tower. And when one of those branches gets decided on or gets interacted with on the narrative side, that dictates future branches of the story arcs that come thereafter. So players can go back, and if you do the you do the boss fight and your friends log in later and they want to go do the boss fight, you can participate in those chapters multiple times, right? You're not locked out from doing it again. With the major story arcs, when the first branch is decided, that is a bit of a canonization for the server, and it creates a really interesting linear storyline and history that each server experiences differently from another. And that, I feel, is something that really has never been represented in MMOs before. One other thing I want to say is that for those of you who've been following the Ashes development since 2017 and 2018, we've talked a lot about how corruption, this red influence, and the use of this evil-esque type of magic influences the world around you. And this is a great example in the city of Carfin, where you can see how a variant of that corruption, blood magic variant, has its own style guide, its own indication of what is going on in this area. And we've always been in Alpha 1. You kind of saw a few of that in a couple places for the corruption influences back in 21. But really, it's a large part of how these zones adapt and can change around. Corruption is always trying to encroach on civilization.
That's
and the larger civilization builds,
we did have some people asking questions regarding corruption, and I think it kind of ties in with what you're saying. 7-6 was asking, will PvP PvP be the defining reason for corruption, and you're kind of like saying that no, it's not.
No.
Yeah.
So PvP is tied into corruption, right? To a
Mhm.
degree, your mortal coil, as we call it, or what some might consider a soul from your character's perspective within the story, can be influenced and can be changed into a shape that's more in tune with corruption, and that's through doing PvP things you can accomplish that. But really, when you think about what corruption is a representation of the ancients' magic, the ancients' hatred, the ancients' desire to strike back at the creation of what the gods who banished them to the void um, have tried to accomplish on Vera. And so corruption is this influence of the essence that permeates around locations in the world and tries to pervert what that creation is. That really is what corruption is.
You know what? That disgusting foot. That's the one situation where I'd be okay with socks and sandals, though. Just gonna say, just gonna put it out there.
The sandals great. The environment team. By the way, I think
They
you
always
all
sneak
out
them in.
there. Yes, they do. But I think everyone who's watching really can give some hearts in chat. Our environment team is absolutely phenomenal, and you're just seeing kind of first passes on these environments with the alpha, zones. Really, this is still not near where we intend, and you
Yeah.
guys watch improvement month after month in test environment after test environment. But the idea is to create a rich world that is visually stunning and compelling. And I think that the mood of this particular zone um, is well communicated through what the environment artist team has been able to accomplish.
And how
Truly,
it
truly
changes
phenomenal.
with the dynamic quest stuff is pretty amazing. So
Yeah, and not just our environment team, but also
yeah.
our tech art team as well. It did a phenomenal job in assisting creating this area.
All right. I have a few more questions. Um, I did want to mention because some people were asking about the icon in the corner next to Steven's nameplate.
Oh yeah.
That little icon is actually his like secondary archetype that he hasn't unlocked, and that will change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea there is to indicate through the party UI so that you can see kind of secondary class choices that are made. And that can be changed. Of course, players can reselect different secondary archetypes through respecking, but your primary archetype remains the same. And that gets unlocked when you do unlock that.
Yeah, and so people were noticing that we had one of our folks with a sword over their shoulder, and they were wondering if that's a new idle animation and when that happens,
Yeah,
or if there's going to be more stuff like that, or if they can
you know,
select which ones they have.
so our animation team, Chris Myers and a few others, part of the feedback that we got from the tank demonstration when we were holding that two-handed sword was that people would like to see variants of the types of non-combat idle stances that can be had with certain weapons. And so we decided to introduce, a variant of that with having the shoulder rest on the shoulder. And that is something that we'll be exploring further to see kind of just how much runway we can get out of custom and or selective idle stances. I know we want to add a lot of flavor to the character and the persona that you that you have, and obviously idle stances can be a part of that display.
All right. And then Galadian wants to know, will this environment change based on season as well?
Yes. So the vast majority of environments in the game have some seasonal interaction. Some environments have 4 seasons, some environments have 2. And, you know, you can see that demonstrated, mainly through like snow but when it enters the corruption state outside of weather, in that corrupt state, you will probably see a little bit less of the influence of the season because really it's adopting that corruption, which
It
is
becomes
in and of
blood
itself
rain.
is kind of a season. Yeah, exactly.
Rain isn't the same in this area. And then Lightfu was wondering, because Imi had mentioned, oh yeah, you can harvest the trees and things like that. If there will be like special types of
Yes.
trees and things of that sort for special
Yeah.
crafted items.
corruption isn't all bad from a gameplay perspective, from a mechanics perspective. Meaning that certain types of resources will have a corrupt state, and it will be necessary for you to acquire, we have a spirit bloom, which is a harvestable herbalism plant. But when a zone becomes corrupt, you can potentially yield corrupted spirit blooms. And those are necessary components of certain crafting recipes. And so corruption also services the idea that as these zones change and adapt to reflect, the different statuses of corruption or seasons, so do the harvestables. And that's an important part of the overall economy.
All right. And then Fly wants to know, this is an open world dungeon, right? What prevents others from just waiting until you're at the boss and then killing you and taking your boss's loot? And then related to that, what prevents mega guilds from just owning an area and preventing you from accessing or enjoying it? I did see a couple other people asking this in different terminology, but yeah.
So a couple things there. First of all, first thing is we don't want, in the majority of cases, we do not want to prevent another group from engaging potentially in PvP. We disincentivize it by creating safeguards within the flagging system that make that decision very concerning for the people that might go corrupt, right? And if you're in a large enough group of numbers, I doubt you're going to experience that unless there's some rivalry between guilds, in which case, there's apparatuses like Guild Wars that are more opt-in. You can drop Guild Tag if you want. But anyways, the competitive nature of this environment is a PvX element. However, in situations where we want to contain a particular type of raid, we will utilize instancing. And that can protect certain engagements with certain bosses, but that's really more on the 20% of 20% of the scenarios will have instancing protection like that. Around 80% of the content is open world, where competition is healthy. Competition is an instigator for soft player friction, for potential cooperation, for the ability to yield alliances, and the political, theater that comes with it. So that's an intended part of the PvX design of Ashes. It's a core philosophical point.
All right. And with that,
And just to be clear, that is not for everyone. We are not trying to make a product that appeals to every MMO gamer. That's impossible. And so we've been very upfront and forthright with what we are trying to accomplish and what our core pillars of philosophical design are. And that's an okay thing. And if the thought of player competition, of potential threat and soft friction is not one that resonates with you, there are plenty of games out there that are not focused around those philosophies, and that's entirely acceptable.
all right. With that, I'm going to move on to our art. We have a lot of cool art to share with you all. The character and concept teams have been kicking some booty. And the first one here, actually, you saw these, but I think being able to see them kind of in like a 3D element here on their own. These are the statues from Carfin that were being worked on. And you can just see, I mean, you saw how massive these things are, but the detail. And as Jeremy, I know, was talking about the lore behind these different folks, except for I don't think they had the ones that were holding the chain, they didn't have the lore for that. But I'm sure they'll write something up if they haven't already. But yeah, they've gone into a lot of detail for these people and like what they're wearing and what they're holding and the symbolization of that.
Yeah,
And
these are
then
great. I
we
love
did.
the.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love the massiveness that it really adds to the environment to have these large character statues. And they are, as you guys heard from a lore perspective, they have great relevancy to the story of what came before your people. So it's cool to kind of dig into that, and it'll be weaved throughout different narratives as well.
And then you did see in a previous live stream a few of the Carfin weapons, and these are just some more that are being worked on. Very exciting. So I'm sure folks will enjoy getting fat loot. I know there was questions about why the hoarder didn't have loot. There will be loot, my friends.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Remember everything you guys see, is not going to be fully comprehensive of what we would expect in a finished MMO product. You're getting snippets of very specific demonstrations, and this one was about the area of Carfin and about the story arc system. So we're very still in development, very much so in development, and because of that, we're aware of what's outstanding, of what we want to show. That doesn't mean that we're not cognizant of that fact. You guys are seeing it. We know it exists, and we have things that we're still working on, and that's acceptable.
Of course. And I like Alex Xavier's they're a baby hoarder. They haven't found stuff to eat yet.
Yeah, a little baby hoarder.
It is a small one. I'm sure there's going to be bigger ones.
Yes.
And then, of course, we have, like you saw, the little pustulas in the world, creepy, gross stuff.
Yeah, those are
but you can kind of
nasty.
see the concept of those. We have some costumes. This is the Autumn Collar. I know they're trying to get this in for some NPCs that they're working on.
Looks great.
Yeah. And then also the Giant Slayer.
Love it. That looks like a very painful armor to fight against.
Well, I mean, there might be a reason why we need the Giant Slayer armor. It's called Giant Slayer for a reason. And then we've also got the Alpine Baghorn, which is awesome. So cool. Like,
he's cool.
It's so fluffy. Next up, we have shown some of our race additions as we've gone forward and adjusted things. And now we have another update of a couple of them. So we know we got a lot of feedback on our dwarf friends. And now you're getting to see a little bit more of the female dwarf here. Her mutton chops. Love them. A little bit more
Very
stout.
cool. Yeah. Looks great.
And if you watched our character creator, or if you haven't watched our character creator stream, I would recommend going to our YouTube channel and checking it out. You can, change the level of wrinkles on them as well. So you could be more older looking if you'd like to be, or younger and more youthful.
She's got some intense crow feet going on there.
All right. And next up is the Valoon, here to judge us. She has a very judgy look on her face.
I mean, she could just be very discerning.
In that one shot, she's like.
Love these guys. They look great.
Yeah. And we've talked about their kind of the relation to the Jinn. And you're going to get to see a little bit of that today. So stick around.
Okay.
And it's pretty sick looking. So that's the female. And then we also have the male.
Looks good. And I know we showed in the past, these are the models, but we showed in the past the
concepts.
So you can see how one-to-one these concepts are to the model. It's great. The artists do such a great job.
Our artists, we were getting some hearts in the chat. Not only our environment artists, but like our character artists. It's just bonkers.
And just so you guys know, Intrepid is an entirely independent, meaning nothing that you're seeing here is outsourced, comes from another studio. This is all our internal art teams. Mm-hmm. So it was very important to us that when defining the look and the visuals of the world, that we create that internally. And our art teams are phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you guys for being awesome. Now, the Jinn version. A little teaser.
Oh, that's cool. It's got some of the Some of the darkness around the eyes, got the emissives on the forehead.
And on the skin too, like the tattoos. Very cool.
Yeah. Very nice.
Good stuff. I think that gets us all of those. So hopefully you guys like the little update. And then we're gonna go to our studio update. Don't worry, I didn't forget this time, you guys. So I'll pass it on to you, Stephen, if you want to talk a little bit about maybe what was accomplished in M4, what we're moving towards in M5, and maybe any other studio information you think we should share with our folks.
Yeah. For us, excuse me. I'm sorry.
You're okay. He's a little
I'm
sick,
dying.
guys.
I apologize, guys. I didn't, I haven't missed a stream in ever since we started doing them, and even though I'm literally dying right now, I needed to be here for the stream. So yeah, M4 for us was a big milestone. We hit some core objectives, both around design and engineering. Our 5.11 update, which was a little bit larger than we had anticipated, but we took those punches. Um, you know, the art teams, the tech art teams, have been doing a lot of optimization passes, and has found a lot of gains on that front. We were dealing with a little bit of a DX issue, which we got some clarity on. Also, we've been fine-tuning a little bit of our architecture a bit more around some of the gameplay systems and where things can share. There's a lot of work done there. A lot of the definitions, further definitions around expanded scope of our building types and architectures within the node. Some of the tools have been getting revamped. There's been a lot of content progress that's made from the narrative teams. Win with the lore side has been doing a lot of work. And then, of course, on the asset creation side, our character teams, our animation teams, the combat teams have been doing a lot of work in getting some of the expanded archetype development progressed. You guys are going to be seeing the Mage next month, and hopefully the Cyclops the month thereafter. Talking a little bit about raids and whatnot. So a lot of stuff, a lot of progress. Just to give you guys an idea, as we continue in production, sometimes we try different things from a production process perspective. We introduced some different approaches with the regards to strike teams and how we facilitate and do cross-departmental collaboration with our strike team formats. Saw a lot of success in M4 out of those. A lot of good stuff there. We have some great pickups and hires that have been facilitated over the course of the last few months. And then in addition, which is kind of where I think I got sick from, GDC, went to GDC. Those of you who don't know, it's Game Development Conference in San Francisco. Had a lot of great meetings there. Listened to a lot of great panels. Got a little mobbed by some. I spent a little bit of time on the expo floor. The moment I walked into that expo floor, there was about 40 people that surrounded me in a circle of signing some GDC badges and talking a little bit about asset creation. That was kind of cool. That was fun. But we've had a really good M4, so it was very, very cool. And yeah, we're continuing to hire. We have some goals this year that we want to achieve, and it's a turbulent time in the industry. I view Intrepid as kind of a beacon project amidst the turmoil that we're seeing. So those of you out there who are who are impacted, and or someone who's impacted, send them our way. We do get a lot of applications each month. I think our last report for Q1 of or the Q1 report for this year, we had probably about 2,500 or 3,000 applicants, and we hired, of those, I think like 7 or 8. I'm not sure. So we're really selective in the people we bring on board, but our focus is to grow the studio considerably this year. So
Yeah, and the way that, I mean, we are a little picky, but it just goes to show, like yesterday when we were hanging out with everybody in a group, you love everyone you work with whenever you build that culture and ensure that the people that you're pulling on board are all, hardworking people who care and love games and are passionate about it. And you can just see that in the work, see that in the relationships that we have built. And it really is, it's cliche, I think, a lot of times when people say, oh, you're building a family, but like, I really think we are. And there's a lot more love and care because it's, we're people first, and then we are, making games secondary.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to mention on the studio update side?
I don't think so, unless I'm missing something.
All right, let's move to the Q&A, and then we will wrap this bad boy up. On the Q&A front, if you don't know, we always grab questions from the forums, and Vacnar is amazing. He goes through and answers every one of your questions. So if you asked a repeated question, because we get a lot of those, we usually just give you guys those answers in the thread versus obviously putting them on the stream here because we don't want to keep repeating ourselves too much.
And real quick, just for those of you who were watching the stream, and understandably, the quality of this video via the stream is not going to be as high as our 4K video, which we'll be uploading later today, of this, so you guys can see it in all its awe and glory.
Yeah, we'll have that video up today, and then we'll also have we already have a forum thread up. So if you'd like to give us feedback on that video or feedback on just what you saw today,
yes,
feel free to head over to that thread over on our forums.ashesofcreation.com.
And let me help kind of contextualize the type of feedback that we're looking for from this particular demonstration. Feedback one on the environments, and what you're seeing, the mood setting, the lighting, the size, the idea of change, adaptive, dynamic change. That's an important one. What do you like about that? What are some of the concerns that you might have about that? What are things that you feel we should look out for there? The second is going to be around the system of the story arcs and how they interface with the with the world. Sorry. And how do you feel that story arc is going to interface on the narrative side, and on the world building side as well? What are some concerns you have there? What are things that you saw that other games did well, that you want to see as available there? Those are important points for feedback. Obviously, the whole purpose of our open development is to garner that feedback so that we don't end up on day one of launch with a game that people didn't ask for and don't want. So this is our opportunity to pulse check. Hey, is our direction correct? Is this resonating with people? Are these the types of ideas that you want to see in an MMORPG? And that's how we value your guys' contribution during this journey.
Yeah. And I'm sure Vacnar is frantically updating that thread now with those questions for context. But we'll get into the questions. And this first one is from Cast-Eye, and they would like to know about mounts. Will mounts always be animals, or will we have inanimate objects like magic carpets and magic brooms too?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, no problem. Will mounts always be animals, or will we have inanimate objects like magic carpets and magic brooms?
Mounts are generally animals in Ashes. I'm not going to rule out there's not an opportunity in the future to have, and we might have in the past. I'm not sure. I would have to double check. But for the most part, they're animals. And if there are non-animal type mounts, then those would be very bespoke and unique.
Yeah, we have more caravan-oriented things for stuff like that.
Yeah, and one thing that we would do, that we wouldn't do, is move into the steampunk type territory.
Steven hates steampunk.
It's
one of the designers, when we were going through the cosmetics and we were designing like sets, and they had like this idea for kind of, because we do have like arcane like engineering magic, but they was getting down the steam. I was like, I already know Steven's gonna tell me no, so you know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a very high fan. It's not to say that people can't do steampunk well. I've enjoyed some steampunk stuff. But I'm a very high fantasy oriented type of storyteller. And the inspiration for Ashes obviously comes from my Pathfinder campaigns that I ran long ago.
Hmm.
And those were always set in high fantasy world. So it just compromises what I believe is the perspective of the storytelling in the environment.
Yeah, I mean, we have we have built a brand and we're sticking to it. And of course, our next question here is from Digital Daydream, which is about gatherables. Will items in your inventory expire or degrade, such as meats, fish, berries, or even crafted food? And if so, will there be a way to mitigate this?
Generally, the answer is no. They will not degrade. We do have the idea of essentially buffed items. So the idea that like you can create a food consumable, and then you can potentially cook that food consumable in a piece of your home's furniture, like a stove or something. And doing so will give it a timed period in which you need to eat it to get the benefits of that particular expanded buff. But we don't want to create an environment, I feel, where you're having to micromanage each of the resources that are very vast in our game. You know, we have a 100+ material system, where you're having to play whack-a-mole with managing those things. It just doesn't, it's not compelling to me. It's not meaningful. I don't see the value in it. It just becomes a chore.
Tedious, yeah, tedious
Yeah.
chore.
Yeah.
Our next question is about world bosses, and this is from Clonage, and they want to know when it comes to world boss respawns, especially legendary ones, how will respawns work? For example, will it be prime time respawning or random respawn times?
Um, so generally, in my experiences, when you have a fixed respawn time, you run into the potential situations where the powerhouses of the server can keep a particular boss on lockdown, and you don't want to create that type of a situation. Mm. And so, one of the ways that we can help to alleviate that is by having windows of respawn times, and we've all experienced this in the MMOs that we've played, um, where it's not necessarily known when exactly to coordinate with your large guild who needs to be online when, right? And this can give a little bit of a leg up on the competitive advantage front for other guilds that might be more smaller knit or more niche, to organize quickly in response to the time window of a respawn. That's one aspect of it. But in addition, some of our bosses spawn off of a predicate. And those predicates can be met at any time. So it might not be necessarily a respawn timer or window for some bosses. It might be when the story arc kicks off or when another predicate in the world occurs. The spawn happens like an event. Um, those might not adhere to standard respawn times.
All right. And then this one is from Frost01 about Summoner, the Summoner archetype. It has been said that Summoner's summons will be an extension of our play. Will this look like our point of view becoming the summon while an AI takes over playing our character? Basically, they want to kind of understand how the system will work.
I'm so sorry. I'm getting bombarded by the production team about meetings today and if I'm going to make them. So I was just I was checking that as you were reading that question. Can you give me that one more time?
Yeah. It's been said that Summoner's summons will be an extension of our play. Will this look like our point of view becoming the summon while an AI takes over playing the character, or how will this system work? Yeah.
No. So two points there. When we say that summons are a reflection of our play, we're talking about that our class composition and design revolves around a holy trinity ideal. Um, the summons will also adhere to that aspect. So summoners, as they grow in level and expertise, will have the ability to select which summon is appropriate for the particular situation that they're trying to address. Those could be a tank oriented, a support oriented, or DPS oriented summon. They'll have access to a multitude of them. In addition, the secondary question there that I've heard is, will we be able to become our summon? We do have the concept of siege summons being a thing, with multiple summoners being required in order to create that siege summon. In those situations, your character becomes the summon. So you don't have an AI that takes over your previous character, but instead, um, the recipient of those additional spell effects become the actual summon itself.
All right. And then BlizzBub wants to know about Alpha 2 scope. I assume some features that are listed on the wiki as being in place for Alpha 2 may be added after Alpha 2 begins. What features off the top of your head are being planned for the start of Alpha 2, and what features are probably going to go live after the start of Alpha 2?
That's a
It's
lot.
long. I know, it's a big question.
So first, I would say that when we talk about Alpha 2's perspective, it's really focused around core systems and their ancillary counterparts. When we talk about what those core systems are, it's the siege systems, it's the guild war systems, it's the node advancements, it's the story arcs, it's the character class progression, it's the augments, it's our artisanship loops and the gathering, processing, and crafting cycles. It's home ownership. It's vehicles and mounts and any number of professions that exist there. And then also a big chunk of Alpha 2 is obviously content, the ability to ensure that the hooks for these quest hubs within the nodes, the points of interest, are stood up and reflective of the content necessary to facilitate those story arcs and commissions and buy orders. That's really kind of the MVP of what we need to achieve in order to demonstrate the loops, collect feedback from those loops and the players who are playtesting them, and then make iteration as necessary based off of the feedback we received. That's Alpha 2's perspective. Now, of course, there are a number of ancillary systems that we also are developing as part of Alpha 2's purview that we want to have available to test as well. However, those aren't necessary in order for us to begin testing. And so Alpha 2 is intended to be a very large section of the game as well as a long testing period. And our opportunity to trickle in additional ancillary systems is something that we're going to be leveraging. Because we want to get in and test as quickly as possible, but also cognizant of the fact that it's a public test period and that players are going to see what we're showcasing, and it needs to be on par with that public display. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think you gave a gist of like what the core gameplay loops are going to be, and that is what's going to be at the start versus like some of the ancillary things.
Yeah.
That will patch in, and of course, patching even in changes to the core loops as well. And next question is from Lineker about the minimum viable product, which a lot of people call the MVP. What is your stance in regards to focusing on delivering an MVP versus continuously upgrading your tools and engine to deliver a better product with new tech, even if that results in delays or additional years of development like UE 5.2, UE 5.3, etc.? I'm like, we actually just went through this a couple of years ago, so we are willing to take whatever it makes,
Yeah, just so you guys are aware, internally how we evaluate either new technology integrations or updates on the engine. Our process for doing that going forward is essentially that our technical teams, especially our network team, our ICS teams, our gameplay engineering teams, they convene and weigh when our next update should be on the engine side, what new technologies might bring benefit overall. My perspective on how we balance the need for integration of new technology versus the responsibility we have in a timely manner to provide testing sessions that get us closer to the launch date. That's a delicate balance. I would say generally our disposition is not to incorporate new technologies that yield some significant amount of delay on the development side. We very much take the perspective that we're capable of adjusting and or integrating those new technologies post milestone, post launch, if necessary. At some point, we'll stop updating the Unreal Engine, you know, in development until launch. That point hasn't come yet, but of course, the larger the project grows and the more customized we have, the more custom we make the engine for our backend needs and for whatever else, merge conflicts can occur. Those merges can become can become big and painful, and the update process gets more painful. So to answer your question shortly, we have a team that kind of evaluates what direction we need to take there. And at the top of my mind is always, let's not incorporate delays as a result of leveraging new technologies.
Yeah, we do a risk assessment and we decide what we do want to do, what we don't, what we're willing to move forward with. There's a lot more that goes into those decisions. And Sir Chance-a-Lot wants to know about passive skills. Does your choice of secondary archetype affect what passive skills you'll be able to have available to you, or are those locked in by your primary archetype?
That's a good question. It's something we've discussed actually in the past, and we still haven't landed on a conclusion yet for the passive abilities, and whether or not there are new ones that are introduced with the secondaries. My inclination is that we will lean towards that direction, but it's really something that we're going to be testing as probably part of Alpha 2 and getting feedback on that.
All right. And then flagging as a combatant is coming. A question from Nice Gaming, wanting to know, aside from contesting open world resources or dungeons, are incentives being considered when you flag for PvP, such as you get more XP or you increase your resource gathering yield, etc.?
The only incentive. So first of all, we want to provide zero incentive for murdering. So there is no incentive to go corrupt. There's no gameplay system that touches that. There's zero incentive for a player to go red.
It actually gives you negatives for doing that.
Yeah, significant negatives, very significant downsides. If we're talking about flagging becoming a combatant, which is not PKing, but just responding to an attack or starting to participate in an attack, the incentive there is that you lose less if you die. So if you die while flagged, not corrupt, but while flagged, you will lose less experience on death. Excuse me, you will accrue less experience dead on death, and the death debuffs will be less. So to a degree, we do incentivize players to fight back or to participate in PvP through the flagging system, but not to PK, not to go corrupt.
But there are other systems for PvP that will give you benefits and rewards and things of that sort, but not just for flagging.
No.
Yeah.
So those we call our events, right? Those are
Yeah.
essentially our PvP events. Those are opt-in, right? Players can participate in that if you acquire a castle. There's a lot of strength and power that comes from that. If you win a guild war, if you win a node war, if you succeed in attacking a caravan, those are systems that you can opt in. There are no death. There are no death consequences essentially for participating in opt-in systems like experience debt and stuff like that. But flagging is its own bespoke system. Flagging is separate of the event-based PvP systems. Those are meant to really facilitate kind of crimes of passion, or situationally strategic relevant things.
All right, and then our next question is about tactical gameplay from Ace1234, and they want to know, how relevant will cover and terrain layouts be on gameplay, and will environmental destruction interactions with these and will environmental destruction interact with these cover mechanics? Example being using cover for protection or hiding, pushing enemies off cliffs, and blowing up objects to use as makeshift cover.
So there's not really the concept of destructible terrain or meshes for cover, other than in specific systems like castle sieges, where I might be on a rampart or behind a wall, and that could be destroyed, removing my cover. But not like a Gears of War or something where I slide up to a piece of rock or the corner of a wall or something. Yeah, hopefully that
All
makes.
right. The next one is from Armored Cell. This is our final question about becoming an avatar. Is it possible for a player character who has achieved the top spot in a particular religion to become an avatar of a deity?
No, not an avatar. You become a very prestigious member of the community in your node. You have certain powers that are granted to you during node events. If you're the highest ranking member, you get unique access to certain vendor tables, and you have some directionality over the organization or religion's kind of path for content of the other followers. There's some benefits there, but not. You don't become an avatar. You don't become a herald of the god.
Yeah. And with that, we have come to the end of our March update. It was a lot. We hope that you enjoyed that. And of course, we want to remind you that next Friday, which is April 7th, I believe, yes, at 11 a.m. Pacific, we will be doing a Creative Director Community Q&A with Steven, who will be chatting with Chibi Bree from The Golden Feather, Richie SH, and Simurg from Ashes Pathfinders. And we are very excited to answer some of the community's questions. Beyond that, we would like to remind you to head on over to our forums and leave us feedback. There is a thread already up there for forums.ashesofcreation.com in regards to our Carfin preview that we showcased here. So please give us your feedback, your thoughts. It is very helpful for us to make sure that we're all on the same page. And of course, reminding that flavors of Fellerin, our cosmetic set, will be swapping over on April 12th. So if you'd like those, head on over and snag them. And of course, we want to extend a massive thank you to you all for joining us today. We appreciate you taking time out of your day, or some of you are watching while you're at work. Shh, we won't tell. And of course, to Amy, Scott, and Jeremy for joining us for our preview section of Carfin, and Stephen for your time and making it through this even though you're sick.
I'm so sorry, guys. I promise I will not be sick. Hopefully, in the week when we do that Q&A stuff with
Yeah, hopefully you're feeling better before then.
Yes.
And with that, we will be wrapping it up. We hope that you stay healthy and safe, and you have a wonderful month, and we will catch you next month for another development update. Remember that the VOD for this will be up on Twitch. We'll also have the high-res VOD of like the Carfin preview over up on YouTube. And then this full VOD will be over on YouTube. And if you leave us a comment and you are a subscriber on the development update video, you could be spotlighted in next month's live stream where we'll answer your question. And of course, follow us on all the places, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. We are constantly posting things almost daily. So if you want to interact with us, head on over there. And of course, on the forums and Discord, we're always available as well. So please pop on over there and join our community and partake in all the fun. And we will see you next month. Toodles.
Bye, everyone.